Hi there, and welcome to this strategy video where we're going to look at something a little bit different to normal here. What we're going to look at today is how we can use historic races and the ratings on historic races to enable us to predict whether a horse has likely got what it takes to win today's race. So I'm going to walk through how we're going to do this, and I'm going to be using Aldermist as an example to show how that works, because at the time of recording this video there is no live racing. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to choose a race. And I'm going to start initially with a race that just has a few runners. So here we go. Hit the 750 is a handicap hurdle with just 5 runners. Class 4, 2 mile 4 furlongs on good ground. So let's just open up that 750 race here. And you can see that I've got a standard race card loaded. And this race is probably about 30 or so. Just having a quick look there at the time, 30 or so minutes away from taking place. So here we are at Aldermist, and obviously Aldermist is the Race Advisor's virtual racing, and it behaves like real racing. So all of the tools that we have here are the same as normal, from predicted pace to Monte Carlo simulators, to speed graphs, you name it. Everything here is exactly as it would be on a normal race. But we're not interested in any of that. We've got a few things that we actually want to do here. The first is we need to filter down to the horses that we're most interested in, and then we need to see if they're likely to be able to compete in today's race. And we're going to do that using the horse history and the ratings for each of a horse's past race. Okay, so we've got a couple of ways that we can break down the horses that we're most interested in, and I thought I would start on just a 5-runner race, and we can come back and look at more runners afterwards. So there are a couple of ways we can do this. We can do it by odds and just take the first 3 or 4 in the market, depending on number of runners. In a 5-runner race, we would take the first 3. Otherwise, we would probably take the first 4 in anything from 8 or more runners upwards. We could also use our PR odds as well, like this, and we can use our total scores and our contenders as well to enable us to select the horses which are most important. And in this example, we got 2 contenders here, number 4, number 3 in this race. So those are the 2 ways that we can do this. We could also use the 5, 2, 7, 8, but we can't really use that in a field with just 5 runners, because we need to take the top 4 of the 5, 2, 7, 8, because the top 4 win 52 to 78% of the time. We could still do that, but that's going to leave us the majority of the horses in the race. Now, in this particular example, I'm going to use I'm going to use the PR odds. And I'm going to do it based on the probabilities, and we got number 1, this horse and this horse, the 2 strongest horses in the race. And you'll notice if we sort by odds that they are very similar, but Green Zone is possibly a threat, so we might consider this horse as well. And that's how I like to do it. I use one method but then cross check it with another method, and if there's a horse that looks like it could be a threat, we use that horse too, and we take a look at that horse. So now we've done that, we need to open the horse's history. And we do that by clicking on the horse's name. And you can see here we put up the whole horse's history, all its previous scores, etc. What I'm interested in is the race card tab here. And if I click on that, you will see that we have every single rating for this horse in all of its previous races based on our race card. And we can change that race card to any of the race cards we want, so we can use it with any of the ratings that we have. But we're interested in it over the race card that we're currently using. And I'm doing this on the standard race card at the moment, but you can use this on any of your race cards that you would like, with any of the ratings that you like to use. So the first thing, I'm going to flip back over to the race, because it's a hurdle turf race, class 4, good ground, over 2 miles, 4 furlongs, with 5 runners. Prize money is just over £4,000, and this information we're going to use back on our horse's form. So hurdle turf, class 4, good ground, 2 miles, 4 furlongs. So coming down here, the first thing that we'll notice is that actually there's no day since last good race in any of these fields, and that's because actually up until its last race on the 11th of April 2020 here, up until this horse's last race, you'll notice that it didn't have a good race. Beaten 20 lengths or nearly 21 lengths, beaten 82 lengths, 34 lengths, 12 and a quarter lengths, 52 and a quarter lengths. So no good races. Obviously its last race it won by 7 lengths. And this race just happens to be a turf hurdle race, class 4, 2 miles, 3 furlongs, so pretty good on good ground. And the ground here, just to confirm, was also good. I'll just have a quick look at the weight. The horse was carrying 11.2. Okay. And in this race it was also carrying 11.7. So all good things in our favour, and this is what we're looking for. We're looking for the races where this horse performed strongly. And other similar races that we have here is this 2 mile 3 furlong at Sedgefield, class 4, carrying less weight than today, but was beaten by 20 lengths, 20 and 3/4 lengths. And scrolling down, we've got a 2 mile 5 furlongs, not too much difference. Class 4 again, Fontwell Hurdle, beaten 34 lengths, again carrying less weight. Now, the first thing I like to do is I like to take the races that were similar to today, but where the horse didn't perform as well. I like to see if there was something in the in-running comments. So I'm going to start with this one here. And hovering over there, we can see this horse tracked the leaders, hit 8th, and was soon outpaced by the leaders, pushed along and had no chance. Okay, so this horse just didn't have the class. Coming up to the other race, the 2 mile 3 furlong race, notice this was on good to firm ground. Held up, nudged along before 2 out, and kept on from between the last 2. So okay, this horse got held up in this particular race, so may have performed okay if hadn't been held up. Coming back to this one, it tracked the leaders but was outpaced. This extra furlong, extra 2 furlongs, possibly a little bit too far. Then coming up to the race that it performed well in, tracked the leaders. So this is a horse that likes to track the leaders, we can tell that. Then led just after 2 out, and then pushed clear and kept on readily. Okay, so there doesn't seem to be much difference between this race and this race, aside from the fact that this horse got held up in, held up here in the race at Sedgefield. Coming down though, out of interest, we can see here 2 miles 7 furlongs, just to confirm our hypothesis. Held up headway, clear leading pair from 5th, and then had no chance. Again, probably the distance just a bit too far. Okay. The first thing to notice is the jockey was F.O. Toole. Today the jockey is F.O. Toole. So we've got the same jockey who's ridden this horse for the last 3 and most importantly has ridden it on its best run. Coming along, we can see here that the PFP was 1496 on the horse's last outing. It had a best ever speed figure over the today's race type, the hurdle, of 110. And these are the ratings that this horse actually had on the day of this race. And that's what we're interested in, because we can compare them directly with where the horse sits today. It was number 8 out of 10 runners in the 5278, so not in the top 4 critically. It had only had 2 good races there out of the last 10. I don't usually use jockey or trainer myself. 0 win history and a 6 QMPV. And the QMPV rating is a form-based rating using the scoring of the horse's finish position in the last 10. Okay. And if you're wondering why Dayson's last good race here is blank, there isn't one, and it had good races in the last 10 too. The reason for that is there's a very slight difference in criteria. This horse would, good race in the last 10 will have considered finish position of 3 here to be good, whereas our Dayson's last good race only considers the place position if the horse has come within a reasonable amount of lengths of the winner. So that's a slight difference in those 2 factors there and why they differ. Okay, so let's just compare those to the current race here. So first of all, it's number 2 in the 5278, so that's good. We know this horse has had a good race and it had it recently. Whether it can come back within 2 days on another one is another question. The best ever on the racetrack is now 148 on the race type, as opposed to 110. The ranking from the last race is 2 as opposed to 8. We've now had 3 good races in the last 10 because obviously the last race counted as a good race, and the win history, now the horse has won, has improved very slightly. The QMPV has also gone up slightly as well at 6.3 here. So a slight increase. The PFP is now 1499. If we come over here, we can see that the PFP was only 1496, so we've seen an improvement. And there was no average competitive PFP last time. However, we've been able to calculate it now. We can only calculate this rating off we've got enough data. Now this horse has been competitive in a race, we can get that as 1496. So what we're looking for is improvements or things that are level to where the horse was at when it last performed well under these conditions. So that's the first thing that we're looking for. And we can see that this horse has generally improved since its last race. Well, the ratings have improved, and that's not surprising because its last good race was literally the last one out. The other thing that we like to check here is obviously the in-running comments to make sure there is nothing untoward in the in-running comments that would indicate the horse won't like this race. We think that actually 2 miles 4 furlong may suit this race because the in-running comments indicated slightly longer races may not suit. So everything for this runner is looking pretty strong. The ground condition looks to suit it, the class looks to suit it, it's in a small field. So this is how we go through and we check this horse. Okay, next we're going to check buckled. So we come over here and we check buckled. And don't forget while we're doing this that this is actually on Aldermist. So obviously it feels and it looks exactly like real because that's how Aldermist behaves, but it is a virtual race. Okay, so again, this horse has a lot more racing history. We've had a bit of time since it last ran. 2018, a couple of years. But coming back here, let's see what we've got. First of all, we've got a lot of longer races. And 2 miles 4 furlongs. Here we go, almost the same. Perth, 2 miles 4 furlongs. Class 4. Okay. So this horse came 6th, beaten 14.5 lengths by Traditional Dancer. Ordinary Gallop headed out, was soon beaten, so no chance there. Carrying 11.9. Let's just confirm what this horse is carrying. 11.4 today. Okay, 2 miles 4 furlongs. Very similar race. Class 4, £6,000. Prize money, beaten 14.5 lengths. We keep going down, and we've got another race very similar at Hexham, but this was a chase race, not a hurdle. So we keep moving on. 2 miles 3 furlongs. Class 3 hurdles here. 2 Class 3 hurdles. Similar distance, one on good to soft, one on good. The good race, this horse won by 12 lengths. Buckled won by 12 lengths. That's a long way. Made all, clear before 2 out. Kept on strongly unchallenged. We've not looked at the ratings yet, but there's a big difference in weight between this one and its next Class 4 up here. Over a stone. Okay. Let's keep moving. 2 miles 4 furlongs. And when you've got a lot of information like this, we can start to the further away a race gets, the less import we want to put on it. So we'll just have a look because these are all very similar here, these two here. But this one's on heavy, so we're going to skip that. And we've got good 10-13, was beaten 29 lengths, held up towards the rear, and then was struggling 3 out. Okay. So this one got held up in this race. So let's just jump back to the top because obviously this horse has got quite a lot of races here. We can scan down in a minute. But I'm interested in the 2 races we found so far. We've got the one that it raced in recently with very similar conditions, carrying 11.9, where started off leading, Ordinary Gallop, but was soon beaten. And was beaten by 14.5 lengths to come 6 out of 7 horses. And let's just come along here. 150 days since last good race, 15.02 PFP. And what you'll notice here doing this as well is you'll notice that we had a peak here in PFP score just after this win of 12 lengths. It jumped from 15.04 to 15.07 after that win. Since then, we've been on a decline. And this is sort of a kind of very complex collateral type form rating. And so we can see that since this win, this horse has just been on a decline here, which is a bit of a concern. Moving over, we've got the best ever rating It is best ever, I believe. Yep, on today's race type. And again, we had a jump here, and we've seen a decline. Okay. Continuing, we've got sixth. On the wrong one. Here we go. We're fifth here. For last speed figure in the last race adjusted. Seventh out of 528. Competitive PFP 1502, and that's kind of held steady. It takes a lot more to move your competitive PFP. It takes a bit of time. I don't use jockey and trainer ratings. Good race last 10 is 5, and that's not to say that jockey and trainer ratings shouldn't be used. It's just that I don't really use jockeys and trainers. I never have. It's not a way that I analyse races or bet, but they are there. They are very good, and I know a lot of people do use our overall jockey and trainer ratings as well as the more specific ones and the profit ones as well. And I will look at some of the ways we can use those in another video, but not in a general analysis. I'll look at them specifically. Win history is 0.05, QMPV, and again you can see we've got a slight increase post that strong race here, but hasn't held on, and it's started to decline again. Again, this takes a little bit of time. You can see that trend starting to come down. So a lot of flags here for this horse. Generally, this horse looks to be on the decline. And that's what we're looking for in these ratings, where we've got more information, more races. We can see these patterns. We can see this build up. We can see this horse started at 1500, kind of dropped down, bounced around, had a small increase here where it got a win in. Back down 2017, then it dropped all the way back down again. We saw a bit of an increase after this win by 1 length here, and then a bit of an increase where it came second in this race after that one to 1504. Big jump up and started to drop down again. We can see this pattern happening in every single rating. So that tells us that this horse isn't hugely reliable. It gets intermittent wins, but that gives us a big question mark. In the race that it actually won, going into that race, anything that stood out was that it was number 1 in 5278, and it was number 1 in the rank speed figure for its last race. So it built into this. It had a couple of good races. It built to this position. Otherwise, we wouldn't be seeing those figures. Again, the QMPV. 3.9, sort of a bit of an increase on that there as well, and it had 4 races in the last 10. So let's just look at where this horse stands today. Buckled this is. Number 5, 5278, not super strong, but number 3 ranked speed figure last race, decent, good races last 10, good runs in the last 10 races. Win history poor. QMPV what we were expecting really. PFP 1496. I mean, that has really taken a hit. So where do we stand on this horse? Actually, what I would do in this particular race is I would open the speed graphs just to have a quick look, because I would expect to see Buckled on the decline. But I would just like to have a look at that on the speed graph. So let's just open the speed graph, have a look at hurdle, turf, good race, good ground, filter by it, remove them all, put Buckled in. I just want to see, oh, sorry, that wasn't what I meant to do. Remove them all. I've removed Buckled entirely now. Right, there's Buckle, and that's what I was looking for. I'm not interested particularly in how it compares to other horses. I just wanted to confirm this feeling that the horse has been on a decline, and we can see that right there. But it has had a long break. So is it going to come in at the top or not? My personal feeling will be I do not want to bet on this horse coming back in with a strong run. I wouldn't want to put my money on it, so I won't be betting on that horse. So that now leaves One Night in Milan for me in this race, and that's been done predominantly, close that off, that's been done predominantly from using this history here. Where we can see all the ratings history, and you can see these general trends in it. Moving over to, we can see here this general trend down as well for One Night in Milan to 1496, which also isn't particularly great. But let's have a look at Green Zone, who was the other horse that was a potential in there when we checked the odds. So we've got a lot of races here for this horse, a lot of races. Wow, okay. So let's just take a look at a few of them that match our conditions. And luckily we've got some here. Kelso, Class 4, Hurdle 4K, 4th, beaten 3.5 lengths. So that's actually pretty good, that race. And another winner here against Mighty Thunder very recently, coming down 2 miles 4 furlongs, again only beaten 2.8 lengths. So it looks like we had good reason to check this horse, and then we dropped down to some worse ones, but we're going back quite some time here. So essentially this horse, over its last 3 races on similar condition, which have been 3 out of the last 5, so 60% of its last 5 races have been over similar conditions, this horse has performed well, and has either won or had a good race, coming within a few lengths of the winner. Looking at its ratings, let's come over here to PFP. We can see, first of all, we can see that this horse can perform well after a long break. So when it won here, it had 425 days since its last good race. So this horse can perform well from a long break. Checking out the PFP, we can see it did have a bit of a drop here from 14.95, 1500 kind of down to 487, quite a big drop, 386, but we're seeing an upwards trend. We're getting that confirmed here in this speed ranking here. We're getting it confirmed. It's also been 324 ranked in this race. Interestingly, where it didn't have a good race on good to soft, it was actually ranked in its speed figure last race, adjusted for today, a 6th, and came 10th here as well. The average competitive level has increased to 1344 recently, which is also an indication it's going up, and we can see a trend here in good race in the last 10 increasing as well, and the win history too, we see that trend there. So in all of these ratings, the trend is on the up for this horse. Moving over to today's race, let me just highlight it so we can see it. 4th in the 5278, number 1 ranked speed figure in the last race, adjusted for today. Again, the top for best ever in this race, pretty consistent with the others. Win history where we would expect. QMPV has increased again. I mean, look here, QMPV was 6 in its last race, and has gone up to 7.2. Average competitive PFP class has stayed the same. The PFP is now 1497, again a slight increase from last race of 1496. So everything is looking very strong for Green Zone, and actually that's flipped me from One Night in Milan to Green Zone. So this is why it's important to cross-check the horses that you aren't looking at. And as you can see, this strategy is more of a form reading approach than a systematic approach. I haven't done many pure kind of form reading approaches yet, strategies, but this is one where we are using the historic ratings to show that the horses are improving or declining. And again, we could confirm this and have a look at the speed graphs. If we jump over to the speed graphs and just look for Green Zone over today's conditions, so we just jump into the graph, and when I do this, I'm just looking for the basic conditions. So I'm just looking for hurdle turf, good ground, and applying that there. I want to uncheck all of them, and I'm looking for Green Zone here. And again, we got that kind of confirmed that this horse has recently improved, and we've seen a bit of a leveling out. So as long as this leveling out stays level and doesn't drop, this horse looks to be strong. We can see that actually this is a trend. The horse comes up, and then we get a drop. The horse comes up, we get a bit of a level, a small drop, it comes up, drop comes to a certain level. We get one race afterwards seemingly where it drops and levels for a bit. We had a bit of a drop last race, came 4th, so hopefully we'll be back in the right race this time round. So for me, the selection in this race would be Green Zone. As I say, this is Aldermis, so I'm going to bet on this. The odds would indicate this horse needs to win. I'll just confirm, let me just close that bet slip for a second and just confirm. You can see here it's second favourite in the market. Let's open it again. And if we've closed our bet slip at Aldermis and you want to get it back, you can just click on one of the horses you've bet on, and obviously it won't add it again. If you click on one of the other horses, it's going to add it, so just make sure you remove it from that bet slip. I'm going to put this in at stake of 25, so just type that in there. place the bet. On this case, I'm going to take it out of my bonus coins and place that bet there. That bet has been placed. So that's this strategy. I can come back and watch this race later when it's run. I'm not quite sure what the time is at the moment. We can see there's another race before this one, so it's going to be 7:32-ish, 7:33. 7:30 speed. So we can come back later and see that race. I can see that bet down here. Green zone win bet 3.92 for 25 race coins. Okay, so that's sitting down here nicely. And that is how we can use the ratings history to see whether a horse is likely to perform well today. We start by finding the 2, 3 or 4 horses we're interested in. When we've done that, we then open the horse's past races. We look through those past races. We look for the trends in the ratings. Is it improving? Is it declining? And you get that confirmed across all the ratings. And you look for that trend. Then look for the races where the horse has actually performed well, and compare that to the current race that we're analysing. Finally, look at the in-play comments of the bad races as well as the good races, just to see if there gives any extra information about how the horse may have performed or why a race may have been particularly bad or particularly good. And you need to do this for maybe 3 or 4 races, ideally, historically, is what we want, as well as the overall trends of going up and going down. If you want a confirmation, you can use the speed graph to just check that trend up and down to confirm your thoughts. And then finally, when we've done that, you should end up with your strongest horse or horses. And if there are any horses that you feel should be brought in because they should have been in that top 2, 3 or 4 and weren't, like I used the PR odds column, but the horse I ended up betting on Green Zone was highlighted by the market, the odds. So obviously I brought that in to check it. Check those horses as well. So this strategy may take a little bit longer than some of our other strategies because it is primarily form reading, and it is a strategy or a technique that is a form reading technique, and you can do it. It is very powerful if practiced. You will become very proficient at this, and when you practice, the benefit of this particular approach is it can be used on any type of race because we're looking for trends, we're looking for patterns, and learning how to spot those patterns can be the difference between loss and profit. Obviously, with Aldermist, you can actually practice this strategy on any race that is taking place, but give yourself enough time to do it. So don't choose a race that's about to go off. However, if you do choose a race that's about to go off, say this 7:40, you still have 6 hours within to get the results to see how your selection may have performed. Okay, so if you've got any questions on this strategy, please do drop them into the forum or contact us through the support desk. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next strategy.